Bannon advised Epstein to look into the camera occasionally, not to share his racist theories on how black people learn, and stick to his main message that he was not a pedophile, Wolf writes. He quotes Bannon's feedback to Epstein. You're engaging, you're not threatening, you're natural, you're friendly, you don't look creepy, you're a sympathetic figure. Like, can you believe this shit? Imagine Steve Bannon telling you to be less racist. Yeah, that is literally what happened. Hey, it's the Goblin Queen. This one's fun. All right, that one's a little bit dark. Let's go on. Let's move on to some lighter stuff. Race science. Epstein's fascination with race science. So this is from Joshua Bach. He's a German cognitive scientist, AI researcher, and philosopher. Another fucking AI guy. This is why we can't trust fucking AI. It's done by a bunch of fucking weirdo Epstein friends. Cognitive scientist, AI researcher, and philosopher known for his work on cognitive architectures, artificial intelligence, mental representation, emotion, social modeling, multi-agent systems, and philosophy of mind. His research aims to bridge cognitive science and AI by studying how human intelligence and consciousness can be modeled computationally, something that is not really possible to do, I think is the general consensus on that. Let's look at this. So here's what he sent Epstein. Some thoughts I meant to send you back for a long time. I'm going to skip over a bunch of the nerd shit. He's talking about fucking brain layers, 1 through N. Let's call them L1, LN, yada, yada, yada. And then he says, I have no idea what he's talking about there, but then he says, you might be able to make blacks smarter by changing the time for motor layer development and changing the time for other layers. Like telomeres for the cell are their equivalents for the layers. As you talked about culling the unused neurons in each layer. Each neuron in each layer would get different. Kill yourself if you're not being used instructions. Exactly. I looked up the statistics. Black kids in the US have slower cognitive development and never catch up, which is a study, of course, attributed to social factors without any evidence. Fucking these people. And they had faster motor development. I suspect this means their brains are slower at learning high-level concepts because the low-level structures that are optimized for a shorter time. Okay. I think that's just about all I need to read with that. But this is a really smart guy who's also a idiot and also a racist, white supremacist. If you've ever waded into the fucking shallow waters of the IQ debate, yeah, exactly. Flash motor works. This is fucking bell curve shit. This is Charles Murray, fucking a historically illiterate way of looking at the world, where this is essentially the way that, maybe this isn't the definition of conservatism, but this is a lot of conservative ideas come from this. Conservatives look at the world as it is without any historicity, not sure if that's the right word, with any historical perspective. And they say, look at how people are different. Look at how these people are poor. These people are rich. Well, that must mean that the rich people are better than the poor people. A lot of black people are poor. Oh, that must mean because they're dumb. That must mean because they're stupid. Whereas a lot of white people are rich. Well, that must mean because they're smart. And the poor white people must also be dumb. I guess some white people must have the dumb gene. It's a biological thing because it must be biological. It's a way of looking at the world. And you don't look at the legacy of slavery, the scars of colonialism. You don't look at how, slaves were forbidden to learn how to read. You don't look at the ongoing, the fucking Reconstruction, Jim Crow era, redlining, whatever. You don't look at how, at any of that shit, like lead fucking poisoning. You don't look at any of that shit. You're just like, no. The way it is right now is the way that it would have been no matter what. The way that Matt Walsh looks at Haiti and he's like, oh, Haiti. Oh, this country's so poor. Oh, it must be because Haitians are actually the worst. Even for black people, they're bad and violent and stupid. And it's like Haiti is the most historically oppressed country on earth by France and by the fucking US. They overthrow their slaves in the rebellion successfully. One of the most badass things you could ever do. And then France was like, and you owe us $1 billion. We're going to do reparations for the slave owners back in France. You got to pay us back. And it took them until fucking the 1970s or something. I forget when they paid it off finally. But that crippled them economically. And the U.S. just fucking kept destroying them and overthrowing their government and replacing it with worse and worse people. And then for you to look at that and be like, well, it must be because Haitians are stupid. It's an idiotic way of looking at the world. In fact, this guy's from fucking Germany, and he should know one of the most interesting studies about IQ is that American German GIs who had children with German women during the war often like abandoned them, and they were raised by their German mothers in Germany. And some of them were black, half black, some of them were white. And if you compare the IQ tests of those kids who were raised in comparatively, equal circumstances, their IQ scores are exactly the same. In fact, the black kids are a little bit higher than the white kids, probably for some other, social reason. I don't know. I don't know exactly why that is. But I imagine it's not genetic. I think that most, if you actually look at studies where they're able to, the rare studies where they're able to take, what does he say? It's often without evidence. Yeah, often attributed to social factors without having any evidence. Bro, do you think that fucking like white kids have the same social factors as black kids? Like, you're an idiot, Anyway, yeah, this sort of shit pisses me off. Anyway, way off topic here, but I didn't want to say this shit without fucking shutting it down. So I read this and I immediately thought about another fucking Michael Wolff book where he talks about Steve Bannon giving Epstein advice for an upcoming 60 Minutes interview. He was giving him media training. He was supposed to do an interview on 60 Minutes, Leslie Stahl. And so I'll just read it. Bannon advised Epstein to look into the camera occasionally, not to share his racist theories on how black people learn, and stick to his main message that he was not a pedophile, Wolff writes. He quotes Bannon's feedback to Epstein. You're engaging, you're not threatening, you're natural, you're friendly, you don't look creepy, you're a sympathetic figure. I like to imagine Epstein like writing that on his mirror, saying those affirmations to himself. Now, I think this is something Epstein did a lot. I think Epstein was not that smart. He's like a little bit smart. Whatever. He's probably like slightly above average, like intelligence. When we talk about intelligence, like what we mean when we say intelligence, like obviously there's different types of intelligence, but the traditionally valued one, I think he was slightly above average, but I think he was very good at pretending to be way smarter than he was. And I think one of his strategies was he would talk to people like Joe Shabak and get him to send him a bunch of shit like this, and then he just regurgitate it. When he was in a situation, he'd be like, well, yeah, if you're suggesting layers 1 through n, let's call them L1, and he would pretend. I'm totally guessing it. This is my interpretation. And I think he would just fucking regurgitate this, and he was saying this shit to Bannon to impress him. And yeah, imagine Steve Bannon telling you to be less racist. Yeah, that is literally what happened. I don't think Bannon cared. I think Bannon was probably cool with it all, but I do think Bannon was like, okay, you're going to go on fucking 60 Minutes, bro. This is the belly of the beast, man. Okay? This is not fucking, 4chan. You can't be saying that shit. Do not share your racist theories on how black people learn. Yeah. I always thought that was a wild fucking line, but now I know probably where he got it from. And you can tell like this has been a back and forth. Exactly. I looked at statistics. Black kids in the U.S. have slower cognitive, so it looks like some other email or conversation that Epstein had with Josha. He was like, well, obviously in the U.S., black kids are blah, 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 blah. And he's like, yes, it's exactly like you said. Black people are inferior. Obviously, white people are smart. If we could fucking fuck with their brains, if we could do some fucking like get out shit, we could fix them. Could help them learn better. You might be able to make blacks smarter. Like, can you believe this shit? Anyway,